Happy Monday. Welcome to episode 7 of the Sneak Preview. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
I'm Austin Johnson.
And this is our newest podcast dedicated to following the current film release calendar. It's cold as shit here in San Antonio, and we've got 3 films to talk about today. As our appetizer, we have Robin Wright's directorial debut, Land, and Nicolas Cage's outlandish horror comedy, Willy's Wonderland. Then, of course, for our main course, Shaka King's incredible Fred Hampton biopic, Judas and the Black Messiah. Going to be a killer, fully loaded episode today. But first, let's see what happened last week in film. Last week in film. First up, 2 trailers to talk about. One that debuted during the Super Bowl, Old, the new horror thriller from M. Night Shyamalan, set for release in theaters on July 23rd. So Shyamalan's got a bit of a spotty record, as we are well aware of. I want to be excited, but his track record is pretty, it's like 30-70. It's not great.
Something like that, yeah.
So he's all concept. Execution's not usually too good. What do you think about Old? Did you get a chance to see that little 30-second clip?
Yeah, I've seen it. I didn't really pay attention much to the Super Bowl. I was working that night, but I've seen that clip, like you said, the 30-second one. I just don't care too much about his stuff in a way where I need to see it right away. It's more like I'll find it in my own time. There's some stuff I like, Sixth Sense and The Village. There's some stuff to offer, but for the most part, I think it's a lot of misses.
Yeah, and this is just something that sounds like it could be cool. A bunch of people go to the beach and find their kids have gotten like 10 years older in 2 minutes, and they want to know why. All right, I'm intrigued, but knowing him, it's going to be like aliens from the future or some shit, and I don't know. I'm hesitant. I'm skeptical.
Yeah, it's not a must-see that Friday.
Yeah, pretty much. Next up, the final trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League Director's Cut releases on HBO Max on March 18th. And I gotta say, after this trailer, I'm fucking psyched. This looks very exciting.
Yeah, we're gonna do something on this movie, of course, and just gonna be I'm gonna have to separate a whole day for that movie.
4 hours of Justice League. And it looks like it makes me wonder, like the original. So Zack Snyder was the original director of Justice League before family tragedy forced Joss Whedon in, and I guess Whedon just wiped out everything Zack Snyder did, made his own movie. Because from what I get, like from the trailer, like this looks like it's entirely new stuff, like everything, stuff we've never seen, which is insane. I've never seen hype for a director's cut like this. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's something in movies that's kind of grown into this thing that fans want. All the director's cut, this and that. But like you said, this is an event. There's never been anything like that. There's been ones that are released afterwards. Something that was recent was the Dr. Sleep one. That was a big deal. The director's cut of that was totally amplified certain scenarios in the film and within the story that excited fans a lot. And that's something that's evolved over time in movies. That hasn't always been a thing for like the director's cut. Not everybody gets to do this to just release this in an event style new movie. It's being marketed like a new movie, like you said. It's never really happened before. So I'm excited in that way, but it's also just it's so ambitious. 4 hours of a superhero movie is like, man, all right, here we go. You better unload a lot of daggers.
Well, and I've been very vocal about how much I distrust Zack Snyder with these properties.
Yeah. We both have. Yeah.
But at the same time, there's something about that, getting to see Darkseid in all his glory, getting to see, like, it looks like we're going to get the Joker Jared Leto wanted to do. He looks like some kind of cross between Heath Ledger's Joker and the Crow. Just,
Yeah.
I'm impressed by that. Just the bit from the trailer. I'm like, that's not the Joker from Suicide Squad. This is somebody else. And I'm excited for that, to get to see maybe Jared Leto can do it.
Maybe. It's tough. It's tough. And the thing about that, the character of the Joker is, personally, I feel now that it's getting saturated. And
yeah,
we had a movie in 2008 where Heath Ledger knocks it out of the park. And then, a decade later, Joaquin Phoenix does it live action again in a totally different manner, and in his own way, kind of knocked it out of the park. And we've seen it on Gotham. We had that one cat that played it. We've talked about him, and you said his name was like Jay or whatever for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And now Jared Leto in Suicide Squad, and now Jared Leto in this, and it's like, whoa, man, I prefer the less is more, especially with a Joker character when it comes to guys portraying him.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you keep giving guys cracks at it, it's not as special anymore. And I fear that. I fear that with this Joker character, man, because I like that. I like a good 20 years. You have Jack Nicholson to Heath Ledger. I really like that gap where you could really let Jack Nicholson breathe as the Joker and let it was his for a while, and then it got passed on to somebody else. It's getting passed around too much now.
Well, it's one of the most iconic characters in pop culture history, and I get
so popular.
Every director who takes on Batman inevitably wants to take on the Joker. It is annoying to constantly have to do, I'm also tired of seeing Lex Luthor when it comes to Superman movies.
Yeah.
Variety. Batman and Superman have such great rogues galleries, so many characters to choose from, that I hate that they just keep picking the same guys.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still waiting for my Brainiac movie. I don't know when that's going to happen.
I think every, true DC fan, Marvel fan, whatever it may be, deep down they have the stuff that they really, really want to see. That's just never going to happen, and that's because these other characters are so huge and so popular. And those are the guys that carry it. And understood. There's going to be guys in the DC world, especially, that are just not going to get that shine that we want.
Yeah. I mean, Marvel's proven they can kind of do anything with anything at this point.
They're pretty powerful. Yeah.
DC can't seem to get the training wheels off. And
no,
I feel like
no.
This Justice League director's cut, even if it's the most incredible comic book movie we've ever seen, it's going to amount to absolutely nothing, because they've canceled the so-called Snyderverse, or whatever they're calling it. So this is not going to build on to anything. This is a standalone, like, what if movie almost. Like, so regardless of how cool it is, there will be no follow-up. So that kind of sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Tough.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll certainly cover the Snyder Cut on this podcast in March. And here's hoping it doesn't suck, because it's 4 hours long. And if it sucks, I'm going to be really pissed.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Next up, some casting news. Michelle Rodriguez and Justice Smith have joined Chris Pine in the upcoming Dungeons and Dragons movie set for 2022. I never played D&D. This sounds ambitious and probably going to bomb. Just my opinion, my thoughts.
Yeah, no, agreed. I played a little D&D in my day. Shout out to my buddy Harvey Mark. He's the one who taught me how to play this game, and it's a lot of fun, when you're with the right group of friends and you're kind of just, a little bit of banter. But as a movie, I'm not quite sure. I'm not familiar enough with the lore to know if there's a movie there. I don't think so, but we'll see.
Well, I still remember 2000s Dungeons and Dragons with Jeremy Irons. So, yeah, the track record ain't great here. And
yikes.
Fantasy epics bomb more than anything. It's crazy. Like, if it's not Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, nobody gives a shit. We've seen this happen so many times. I'm just not holding my breath for this.
Yeah.
Next up, this was cool, but also kind of disappointing. Sony reportedly has offered the role of Kraven the Hunter to Keanu Reeves, but unfortunately, Reeves has apparently passed on it. Sony's prepping their Kraven movie because they have all these Spider-Man characters and they don't know what to do with them, so they're just giving everybody a movie. And Kraven's next on the pile. And while a Kraven's Last Hunt movie could be really cool, there's no way in hell Sony goes there. So I bet this is just going to be strange. But Keanu Reeves, what do you think of that?
That would be fantastic, but obviously, he's got bigger things going on. John Wick 4 stuff, so other things to focus on for Keanu.
Well, if you think about the character of Kraven the Hunter, I mean, he's a big game hunter. If you give that to Keanu Reeves, is it essentially just John Wick, but he's wearing like a leopard print?
Yeah, basically. So yeah, you might as well do the other thing that's cooler.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's weird that Keanu has. No, never mind. He did Constantine. Forgot about that.
And the new Matrix coming out. Yeah,
but he's dipped his toes into the comic book world before, and I know he's really itching to do another Constantine. That movie's kind of been reclaimed by fans. I know, like, people did not like it when it came out, but over the years, like, fans have kind of gone back to Constantine and thought, you know what, not bad.
Yeah, I like when that happens. There's films that take a minute for people to kind of latch on to its to its charm, and that's definitely a strong case right there.
I don't know, Kraven. I don't like Sony having a piece of Marvel. I feel like they're blackmailing constantly.
Yeah, of course not. Those bastards. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they suck. They throw a wrench into something that could be even more special than it already is.
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating. They're a speed bump.
Yeah. Well, if this Kraven movie does end up happening, I hope they pick somebody who can handle it. Somebody who can have that kind of charisma, because it's always weird when they make movies surrounding villains like this, like Venom and Morbius. Like, what do you do with that? I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, when you got like Tom Hardy to center your movie around, that's fine, that works. So for Kraven, maybe like, this is silly, but like Robert Pattinson, I know he's playing Batman, but like, maybe someone younger than Keanu, because like Keanu's, maybe get someone who's kind of coming into their own star power right now.
No, that would never work for Kraven. Kraven's whole character is he's like past his prime, but still believes he's a badass, and like
Gary Oldman.
That would work. That would be pretty cool. I could see that.
So you think he's got to be past like 50? You think
at least past like 35? I mean, he's got to be,
Oh, okay.
A guy who's been through the ringer, who's seen some shit, who is like not ready to give up the game.
Fair enough. I think, Robert Pattinson's 34. Okay, so like Jake Gyllenhaal's 40. Could he work or no?
He could work. I think I always saw Kraven as kind of a little foreign, kind of like, I think he's Russian in the comics, I think.
Okay.
Somebody who's got kind of like a little like rougher kind of look. Like, honestly, a guy I think if he cleaned up a little, I would go with Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke, I like it. As you were saying the stuff, playing the Russian, I thought of Mads Mikkelsen.
He would be cool.
Mickey Rourke, that's cool. That'd be fun. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm interested with Kraven. I'd like to see the movie. I hope they do it right.
That's cool. That's cool. I dig it. I love talking about people who could play certain characters. I love trying to recast stuff. It's one of my favorite things to do with especially superhero movies.
Oh, it's very fun. Next up, and this was really cool. Native American actor Michael Greyeyes has been cast as the sadistic villain John Rainbird in the upcoming remake of Stephen King's Firestarter. So we have a Native American actor playing a Native American villain. Thank you. That's all I wanted from Firestarter, because George C. Scott did not work. Oh my God. I'll never believe that really happened. That they cast George C. Scott.
No, of course.
As a Native American bad guy and gave him like a black braid. Like, it's so terrible.
God, not Patton. No.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and he's not even like he's just Patton with black hair.
Yeah. Fucking shit.
And this is 1984. George C. Scott was, hiking up there in years.
So it's
hilarious. Firestarter is great.
We did that episode on Exorcist 3 not too long ago, and yeah, that's in the 90s. He's looking old in that.
Yeah, and in 84, Firestarter is such a cool story, and in the right hands, it could be a really kick-ass movie. So this is a good step in that direction. I think Zac Efron was cast as the dad, which is interesting. So we'll see.
Love it. Love Zac Efron. I think he's one of those guys that I think has gotten like misread by certain people. And I actually look at his career and I'm kind of impressed by what he's put together so far for his age. I like the guy, and I love the episode you did on it was on Filmgazm. It's a long name, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, whatever, and Vile, whatever. That film with him, it's pretty cool film. I think it's been like kind of forgotten already a bit. I don't really hear anybody talking about it anymore, but I liked him in that a lot.
Yeah, I think playing Ted Bundy really opened a lot of doors for him because he did such a great job balancing this like charming, almost innocence with just pure sadism. And it was a great job. I love that you kind of think maybe Bundy wasn't, in the movie, at least you think maybe he's innocent until, of course, the end when you're like, oh yeah, he's Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
He fucking did it. But yeah, impressive performance for sure.
Yeah. I dig Zac Efron. Think he's cool. I'm excited for what he's going to do in the future.
Oh yeah. Next up, Jack Blast.
Hell yeah. That's perfect.
God damn it.
Jack Blast.
I'd cut that out, but that's too damn funny. Jack Black has been cast as the voice of the robot Claptrap in the upcoming Borderlands movie from Eli Roth. This is turning into quite a production. Cate Blanchett is also involved in this. So basically the crew from The House with a Clock in Its Walls is back together. Doing a video game movie.
Shit, I forgot about that movie. Oh my god.
Now they just got to get Kyle MacLachlan on board and they'll have the whole set.
Yeah, who else was in that thing? That was a Disney movie that just kind of like came and went, huh?
Yeah, that was Eli Roth's kids movie.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah. I remember
right.
I think it came out while we were working at Draft House, no?
I remember working that movie, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't remember a fucking second of it,
I have like bits of dialogue just rattling in my head from like I would hear like dozens of times just moving popcorn back and forth. And it was always at the same time in the movie. So I just have.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, like,
yeah.
There's specific movies that you definitely remember, like the big Marvel movies where you're like constantly doing stuff and you remember the beginning of the movie. You remember every fucking line of it. Yeah.
I have the entire script of Star Wars Episode 7 memorized. I worked that movie nonstop for like 3-4 months. It was insane.
I'm really familiar with the opening to Ragnarok with the immigrant song.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Running upstairs with dun 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 ah over and over and over. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good times.
Yeah, that's kick ass. So Borderlands, I know I say this every time we bring up a casting announcement with this movie, but I never played the game, so I don't care.
I watched my brother play the game. That's about it. That's all I can say. That's about all I can say for most games, most video games. I watched one of my older brothers play it until I got a little older.
Yeah. The last time I was excited about a video game movie, it sucked so hard I gave up, and I was really bummed. It was the Ratchet and Clank movie from 2016.
Oh, that was a cool game. Yeah,
I love that game so much, and I had high hopes, and I was so bummed. It was.
Are you more of a Ratchet and Clank or Jack and Daxter guy?
I am actually in the middle of a Jak 3 replay. So as the moment, Jack and Daxter.
My man, that's awesome.
I had anchoring. I played 2. I just beat it yesterday, so I started playing 3.
Fucking hell. Oh, that's great.
I love, all those games. That's my whole childhood. The Ratchet and Clank series, the Jack and Daxter series, and this PS2 game called Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy that I still love to death.
Right on. I love it. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah. Little sad news. Italian cinematographer and Oscar nominee Giuseppe Rotono has died at 97 years old. He was nominated for Best Cinematography for 1979's All That Jazz. Some of his other work includes Emmercord, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, Regarding Henry, Wolf, Sabrina, and Rocco and His Brothers. He had quite a varied resume and all movies we watched fairly recently, which is weird.
Yeah. And some movies that stand out for sure, and I think we both finally remember episode 25 of Oscar Sunday when we talked about the films of 1979. We talked a lot about Kramer vs. Kramer and got to talk a lot about All That Jazz. And the movie's really dear to my heart, and obviously the way it kind of moves is what it's all about. And his work on that movie is uber important. And then recently I watched Amarcord for Federico Fellini. And we worked on that with him, and that's an amazing movie. A guy, like you said, the guy that kind of touched a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And I just watched The Adventures of Baron Munchausen.
Uh-huh.
Definitely has a unique eye to it. Weird film, but memorable. And great work. He'll be missed.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, director Adam Wingard, whose credits include You're Next, VHS, The Guest, Blair Witch, and Godzilla vs. Kong, is going to be helming a sequel to 1997's Face Off. I don't know why or how. Who wants to see Face Off without Nicolas Cage and John Travolta? Nobody. And it was announced when this was first announced, they said it was going to be a reboot, but Adam Wingard came out and said, no, it's a sequel. So I'm wondering how that's going to work, because I doubt Travolta has that kind of screening pull anymore.
Yeah, unless it's something really, really special. No, I don't see a whole lot coming out of this. In Face Off, I want that to stand alone. Such a bizarre movie, one that's so much fun to talk about. One of those kind of like bad but good movies that you can just dive into. And yeah, I definitely want that to kind of stay alone. But whatever, everything gets touched and gets a sequel these days. So
yeah, it's annoying. I mean, Face Off is such an action classic. John Woo doing an American action movie is just
it's so wacky.
Travolta and Cage have such great chemistry as just, mortal enemies. They swap in each other's personalities. It's such a cool movie.
Yes.
And,
yes.
Yeah. I just don't want to see it, millennial-ified. I just don't want to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's got its own like badassery about it. I want that to stay.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Next up, Velvet Buzzsaw's Zawe Ashton has been cast as the villain in Captain Marvel 2. The character has not yet been announced, but she's going to play the bad guy. So we'll see who that's going to be. I'm a big comic book nerd, but I have nothing on Captain Marvel lore. It was after my time. So I got nothing.
I've definitely got nothing. Definitely, from the words of George. Yeah. I totally got nothing. There's no way I can even come up with an idea here.
Yeah, but Captain Marvel, admittedly has been kind of one of the most forgettable of the Marvel movies. I've only seen it the one time at the movies. I liked it, but I haven't really wanted to go back.
It's fine.
I don't really know why that is. I think it's just, it came out between Infinity War and Endgame, and I wanted more. So that's probably why.
Yeah, pretty tough space for it to kind of live in. but I agree with you. I think it's somewhere in the middle of the road when it comes to the grand scale of all the MCU movies. It's not one of the worst ones by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not one of the best either.
Yeah, and that's just, something we got to deal with. But I don't know, maybe the sequel, after all this shit will be a little bit more explosive.
Hey, the first, Captain America wasn't very good. Those got awesome.
The first Captain America is one of my favorite MCU movies. I love that movie.
I'm not really into that one. Winter Soldier is the one that I'm like, yeah, that one's good.
First Avenger, it's Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull. It's World War II.
I don't like that one. I don't like Thor 1 or 2 really much. I don't really care for any of the 3 Iron Mans. We've gone down this road. Yeah.
I'll give you the first 2 Thors. I like the first Iron Man, but Iron Man 2 and 3 are pretty weak. Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. See, comic book fans, that's how you debate a comic book like and dislike situation.
These are good. These are okay. These are bad. These are the ones that I think are good. All right.
I'm going to teach y'all a phrase: agree to disagree.
Yes. Yeah. And then when you agree, have fun.
Yeah. And when you disagree, move the fuck on.
Also have fun.
Speaking of moving on, Will Eubank and Christopher Landon are developing a reboot of Paranormal Activity. Because there's no way this franchise was staying dead for too long. Jason Blum of Blumhouse is involved as well, so that's optimistic. Landon wrote Paranormal Activity 2, 3, 4, and the marked ones, while Eubank directed Underwater. So I'd say not the best team you could get, but I don't know. If Blum's involved, I'm involved. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a whirl. But it's silly. it's silly to just keep this thing alive.
How many of those have you seen?
I've seen all of them at least once, but the first one I've seen like 20 times. It's just I've seen it at friends' houses and whatnot. Keep in mind, when did that come out? 2009. 2000, yeah, somewhere in there, 2009, 2010. Yeah, we're like in middle school, going into high school. Like that shit was definitely something that like my friends always had at their house. We just watch it and vice versa. And I've watched it for fun now. It still takes me down, a certain road that I like going down with horror, but they're not good, and it's just it's too much at this point. How many are there now? This is going to be the 6th one?
4, 5th? The marked ones, Ghost Dimension. This is the 7th.
7th?
Yeah.
7th. Damn. Yeah, that's too many.
There does not need...
What is this? It's not the 80s. Come on.
Ooh, that stung. I have the first 2 because to me, those are the only 2 really worth a damn. Once they introduced like witch covens and time travel, it just got too weird. And just
you see what I'm saying about the 80s? Yeah. witch coven, Halloween, witch coven, Halloween, all the
I immediately jumped to Friday the 13th, 7 and 8. 7 involved a psychic girl, and 8 was Jason Takes Manhattan, where Jason, despite being afraid of water, hops on a boat, goes to New York, and just fucks around in Manhattan for a while. And there's a scene where he walks past a black dude with a boombox because it's the 80s, and he just beats the shit out of the boombox. He didn't touch the guy. He just like, I don't like that song, and like it destroys the boombox. It's a terrible movie.
The Hellraiser. There's a bunch of different ones with weird names. Yeah, it's bonkers.
Yeah, Elm Street. There's like, oh god, that whole rabbit hole. Yeah, we have yet to go into Elm Street or Friday the 13th on Filmgazm. We're saving those.
yeah, those are deep. Those are deep cuts.
Yeah, I know a certain team member currently away who adores those movies.
Yeah,
and would really like to talk about those.
Yeah. Yeah, those are ones that could take that could last a while. You know, there's a lot to talk about for the careers. You know, like a guy like Wes Craven. You know, it's just you can kind of go on forever.
Jason Voorhees gives us at most, or at least, 12 weeks of content. So yeah, awesome. Next,
Hell yeah.
These next two are odd. Paramount is developing a remake of the 50s classic The King and I, because everything is available for a remake, nothing's sacred anymore. Have not seen this. I've only just stepped into Rodgers and Hammerstein territory by finally watching The Sound of Music. But it makes me appreciate these a little bit more, and I don't like that they're doing this. They've done it before. This will be like the third time. Just give it up.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a pattern we'll always have. You know, you and I are trying to keep up with the current situation in film and TV and all that shit. And this is a pattern we see of stuff kind of being redone, remade, and revamped, and sequel, and you know, this is how it is.
It's annoying. I mean, during all this, you've got so many independent filmmakers trying to get their stuff off the ground with original stories and personal stories, and they always have to fight to get a budget, but they'll greenlight the same musical 4 times just to try to make a quick buck. I'm tired of this shit.
Yeah, it's old.
And it's going to happen again because director Nicole Castle is going to be helming a remake of The Wizard of Oz. They're remaking The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, that's downright stupid, you know?
There's so many, like, there's a few films that you think would be sacred. Wizard of Oz is one of those films. I mean, we've got, Return to Oz and Oz the Great and Powerful, but those were like offshoots and prequels and shit. They've never just straight up done The Wizard of Oz again, unless it was in like 80s New York or with Muppets. So I don't really want this. I know it's going to be CGI heavy and the heart is going to be sucked out of it. So here we go.
Yeah, this will probably be like what happened with Gus Van Sant's 90s Psycho, you know, just like straight up remake.
Yep.
You know, that's the kind of vibe I get. That's the kind of stuff that comes to mind when I hear that. Yeah, that's really stupid. Actually, yeah, I just saw it right here on my computer right now. Just pop up a fucking ad for it. Get the hell out of here. They heard us talking.
It's going to end up, being a musical that maybe breaks even. Everyone stops talking about, and there'll be one original song from Beyonce. I'm looking at you, Lion King. So, yeah, I'm not looking forward to this.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Ugh. So that's all for the last week in film. Before we get into the big one, let's talk a bit about 2 other releases this week. First up, Land. The directorial debut from Robin Wright. It's a film about a woman who loses her husband and son in a tragic situation and is contemplating suicide, is very depressed, and she decides to isolate herself in a mountain cabin despite having no survival training whatsoever. So she quickly falls prey to the elements, is nearly dies of starvation until she is rescued by Miguel, played by Demian Bashir, who has lost his family in a similar situation. And the 2 bond and become friends and realize life is worth living. It's a very sweet movie, very depressing, unbelievably sad. The ending is like, Jesus Christ. And it's just kind of continuing a theme of movies these first 2 months of just very heavy and very depressing. And it was good. I'm excited to see Robin Wright's future as a director. There was a great cover of Bruce Springsteen's "I'm on Fire" in the opening credits that brought tears to my eyes. Yeah,
that's fantastic. You gotta love when just the first moments of a film can do that, and I think it has a lot to do with where you got to see it.
Yeah, I saw it by myself at a theater in San Marcos, Texas, called Evo Entertainment. Kind of a mixture of an arcade, a bowling alley, and a movie theater. It was like the most college building I've ever been to, and I'm including the actual college. And It was just fun. It was me and then two other ladies, like 2 rows ahead of me. And it's similar to Draft House. You know, they have food and beer and stuff, and you can just kind of enjoy yourself. And I had a nice me day, and the movie was really sad, but I'm glad I got to see it. I like, you know, being able to experience a lot of different kinds of films. And Robin Wright's an actress I've been a fan of for a long time, so I wanted to see her directorial debut the way God intended.
Yeah, no, amen to that. I mean, you know, being able to go to the theater is, of course, a blessing and something that, you know, we've all taken for granted, I think, in our lives, and being able to just do that with our families and friends and go to see the new Marvel movie with a packed house, you know, like that's something that I think we all took for granted, you know, now that it's gone. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to find that, San Marcos. You know, you recently moved there, so
Yes.
got to find that place. I lived right around that theater like 5-6 years ago, and I saw The Martian and Black Mass there.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. Both.
yeah. So 2015. Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Well, I justify it by, I'm very careful. I wear a mask. I isolate myself in the theater. I live alone now. So the risk of me contaminating anybody or catching this thing in that situation, fairly low. So
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. I'm not letting anything keep me from the movies. I'm sorry, but I'm keeping myself safe, but also embracing what I love. I see no harm in that. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's 2 other people in the theater sitting a few rows in front of you, and people are wearing masks until they get to sit down. And yeah, I just, people are going to the grocery store where there's like hundreds of people. So yeah, it is what it is.
Honestly, the movie theaters are the places where I've encountered the least people with this whole thing. It's bonkers.
Yeah. Yep.
So I give Land an 8. It's a very poignant film. The ending is emotional as fuck, but also kind of gives you a little glimmer of hope. And it's a great movie to kind of remind you to count your blessings, to, tell the people you love that you love them, because you never know when something could happen.
A good thing that a lot of movies do, and sometimes not effectively and sometimes effectively. So yeah, I'll try to check this one out.
Yeah. It'll be on streaming, I'm sure, within the next couple months. Next up, a film that I very much was looking forward to seeing, and I'm glad I got to. Willy's Wonderland, the latest Nicolas Cage adventure, and maybe his weirdest, and that is saying something. For those of you interested in checking this one out, it is available to rent on Vudu for $20, and probably Prime as well, roughly the same price. But this is a film that stars a mute Nicolas Cage as a drifter who is tricked into cleaning an abandoned like kids arcade place called Willy's Wonderland, kind of a Chuck E. Cheese knockoff. And he finds out that these animatronics are possessed, trying to kill him, so he kills them first. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, pure bonkers. I watched this like right after you did today. We're recording this on Valentine's Day, so don't recommend for Valentine's Day. But
best date movie you could pick.
Yeah, not the best date movie, but man, it is so damn entertaining, and right from the get-go, you know where you're at. Nicolas Cage playing this drifter character who, like you said, just kind of, quickly realizes he's in a weird situation, so he beats them to the punch first. It's great. It's great. It's like complete opposite of what you just described in Land. Like, there's movies that do that thing where, like, appreciate what you got. Tell the people that you love. Tell them that you love them. There's movies that do that, and there's movies like Willy's Wonderland that, they're built in a certain way for the creator to do what they want with the movie. First off, to be creative, to have their art, which is awesome. I love that movie making can do that, can be so broad. And it's for entertainment. It's for us to just kind of sit back and enjoy, an hour and a half of this movie star, Nicolas Cage, who has this, whole realm of different opinions and, perspectives on him. And you and I are big fans of his. We love Nicky Cage. So seeing him in this was a blast for me. I had a lot of fun. I don't recommend it to everybody, but I do recommend it if you like Nicolas Cage. You know what I mean?
This weekend, not a lot of great date movie choices. You've got a movie about a woman contemplating suicide after the loss of her family. You've got Nicolas Cage fighting off animatronic demons, and you got the Black Panthers. So not a lot of love this weekend.
Well, yeah, we'll get to when we talk about Judas. There's a love story with him that's real nice.
Yeah, fair enough. But Willy's Wonderland. There's so many great moments in this film because it's very much it feels like a parody at times.
Yeah, for sure. It's fucking around a lot. It's awesome.
Like Nick Cage, just when he meets the first animatronic, he does not react in the slightest. He's just like, oh, okay, this shit, and takes care of business. It's hilarious. He keeps changing his shirt because he keeps getting blood on it, and it's I I love that the whole time throughout everything, he doesn't stop cleaning.
Yeah, no, he's getting the job done. He's drinking his drink, just making sure everything, the dishes are steady. It's pretty hilarious. The tropes that this movie's going with of, when the camera goes really close up to the can when he opens it and just like he's fucking Popeye, it's fun. I think it's a lot of fun, man. I just don't, I know some people who would be like, what the hell is this? Yeah. But I had fun for sure.
Yeah. The director said that if this gets enough love, he is planning a sequel.
Good. Yeah, good. See, this is the kind of movie that can build on just it's an hour and a half. You could make 5 more hour and a half of these that's just kind of bonkers, built around this wild wonderland place. Yeah, keep it going.
I have thrown this movie in the book of Filmgazm because one day this we'll get a proper fleshed out Filmgazm of Willy's Wonderland.
Yeah, talk a little bit about Geo Parsons and Kevin Lewis and just kind of figure out exactly how this all got made. And yeah, just wild movie.
Well, I know for one thing, this was not a paycheck gig for Nicolas Cage. He has always wanted to make a silent horror film and play a character with no dialogue. And he saw this as his opportunity.
That's perfect. Perfect.
There is nothing you could tell me about Nicolas Cage that would surprise me. Really nothing.
No, not at all. That's why we love him, Just real quick, right now, off the top of your head, what is your favorite Nicky Cage role?
Oh my God. My favorite role.
Give a couple if you have to.
All right. I immediately go straight to H.I. McDonagh.
Same.
Raising
that's
Arizona.
my number. That's my number one. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Castor Troy from Face Off, obviously.
Fair enough.
Cameron Poe from Con Air. I like Ben Gates from National Treasure.
Oh yeah, Ben Gates is wonderful.
I go all over the place with Nicolas Cage. That man is, to me, and he's a national treasure. And
100%.
As much as he's been in some shit films, a lot of shit films, but the guy always gives it his own. He gives his own 100%. He acts in a way no other actor really does, where he's chewing the scenery and disappearing into the character at the same time. It's so odd. It's impossible to describe. You just have to watch it.
Yeah. He's the man. And I became a believer. I remember I went through a stint. I seriously, man, I became a believer when I watched Raising Arizona and, Leaving Las Vegas. And then I remember Adaptation is when I was like, Nicolas Cage is fucking awesome. This guy can kind of do anything.
Never forget, folks, he is Academy Award winner, Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
That matters. I regrettably have not seen Leaving Las Vegas or Adaptation yet.
Those two are wonderful. Matchstick Men.
That is great. Matchstick Men is great.
Man. Yeah, I could kind of go on and on. Nicky Cage is like, he's beyond a national treasure. Yeah, he's he's something else. There's nobody quite like him. And I don't really see in the future anyone capturing the same kind of aura that he does.
No, he's the man. Have I talked about Cage-a-thon on the podcast? I feel like I have.
Probably, but go ahead. Why not?
All right. I love telling this story anyway. So once a year, pre-COVID, Nicolas Cage himself hosted a yearly Nicolas Cage movie marathon in the Draft House Ritz in Austin, Texas. He called it Cage-a-thon. He would pick a selection of like 5 of his movies and show them and host a Q&A. And there was a clip I saw from 2018's Q&A. And it was a guy asked him, like, Sir, obviously all of us here are huge fans. And, but of course there's some people out there who aren't, don't really understand your work. And I was just wondering if you had anything you wanted to say to the haters. And Nick Cage smiles for a second, takes the mic and just goes, "You just don't know what you're missing." And everyone roared in applause. And then they watched Lord of War. So yeah, nothing but respect.
Mic drop. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Yeah, I love that. I love that story.
Yeah, I'll continue to support this dude's work forever. He's one of my favorite actors. His movies are like their own genre at this point. And yeah, he's one of America's greatest talents. I believe that wholeheartedly.
I love it. He's one of the few guys that, like you said, he has his own genre. Like you look at Nicolas Cage movies and you kind of look past the director. It's a Nicky Cage movie.
Yeah, straight up.
I love that.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So Willy's Wonderland, available to rent on Vudu for $20, available on Prime for the same price. If you like bizarre horror films, this is for you. Check this out.
Yeah, I give it a 7 overall, but I do think it's just entertaining as hell. It's not a real well put together movie,
No, of course.
But
not.
it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, I gave it an 8 because I liked that it got me out of a bit of a slump from this year. Everything I've watched from this year has been super sad. And this was something that finally made me laugh and just be like, what the fuck? So
yeah,
I'm glad that it did that. And I got drawn in and I thought, this is hilarious. There's moments in this movie that are just like bizarre. Like the two people just decide to fuck in the middle of the playroom for some reason and they get ripped apart.
Of course. Yeah.
It's a horror movie. Why would you do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's hard to explain, but it's hard to explain, but if you understand it, you get it. You don't need to be told why. You just know.
You just know. You just know the rules. Yeah.
Nick Cage. Love it. All right. So we covered Land. We covered Willy's Wonderland. Now let's cover the big film, something we've both been anticipating for quite some time, Judas and the Black Messiah. So this is the story of Chicago Black Panthers Party chairman Fred Hampton, his influence over the civil rights movement, and his ultimate betrayal at the hands of FBI informant Bill O'Neill. I'll confess something. Prior to the trailer of this film, I had never heard of Fred Hampton. He's a guy who just isn't taught in schools around the civil rights movement. Like they talk about MLK, they briefly will cover Malcolm X, but that's kind of it. Fred Hampton never gets talked about, and he fucking should. This guy was amazing. Like one of the best orators ever, and just a guy who knew how to unite people. Like he could have been like huge if the fucking feds hadn't cut him down.
Oh man, yeah. Fred Hampton's pretty fascinating character, huh?
Yeah. All of this, like he was killed when he was 21.
Yeah. It's like the first the first thing for sure that just kind of sinks in,
Yeah.
a guy who his mind is so advanced, his ability to see the bigger picture is pretty impressive at that age. Not a lot of guys are a threat at that age.
That's the scariest part. That like
that's what he's looked at. He's looked at as a threat to Americans. What, like this guy who simply brings people together? It's really, when you bring it down to like a dummy level, which is what you have to do, for people to understand. Is like, this is why movies like this have to be made. It's because people need to understand, how fucking black and white it is,
Straight up. That's what I mentioned that in my review about how, biopics are one of my favorite genres, specifically because they bring these people to light. They bring to light stories that are not traditionally told, that need to be told, regardless of how accurate they are historically. It gets people talking about, Fred Hampton. This is a guy who's going to be on people's minds for quite a while because of this film. People are going to remember what he did, and that's more important than anything.
Yeah, I agree. I think, we're going to talk about this movie and like kind of dive into it, what just the film is and how impressive the movie is it's kind of a genre bender, which is my favorite part about it. But like you said, biopics have a lot of power. They can, they're choosing a figure and they're choosing a way to tell an audience about who they are. They're choosing a path to take, and you can go this route where it's kind of looking into a shorter span right before his assassination, and you can also do like what Spike Lee did with Malcolm X and go over everything.
Yeah,
I kind of like them all. Or you can do something totally different, like Catch Me If You Can. Totally different kind of biopic. It's an awesome way to make a movie, right? Take a figure, you have the power to kind of like, this is what they meant. It's scary too, though.
Yeah,
because you can have something like I, Tonya, where people are like all of a sudden kind of praising this woman, and she's kind of coming back to light all of a sudden, and like, no, like she did some fucked up shit, some fucked up shit in order to win. And that's super fascinating. In this case, it kind of hits on all cylinders. We get a guy who's 100% worth talking about. A guy that, like you said, you said yourself that like you didn't know about him in school. He wasn't taught in school. I wouldn't know. I dropped out my sophomore year in high school. Like I had to find my own stuff, and that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me that he's not a figure that wasn't in schooling, and that's beyond me. So it makes sense that you would make a biopic about that guy, Fred Hampton, a guy who means so much and is worth all of the time in the world to talk about, and doesn't get that at the same time. That's what a biopic, it meets those, it kind of bridges those two things.
One thing I do want to bring up, and this is crazy to me, this just clicked. My freshman year of college, I took an honors course on American counterculture movements in the 1960s. Fred Hampton's name did not come up one time.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, it's wild.
Yeah. I don't think we even touched on the Panthers. Like we talked mostly about like Bob Dylan and shit. It was actually a very boring class.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to kind of, I love Bob Dylan, but yeah, just a very like whitewashed idea of what was happening in the 60s. Yeah.
And that's something that is really
Allen Ginsberg. Yeah. Whoa.
It's something that just has been prevalent in our history for a long time. I'm taking a class right now on historiography, which is kind of like the lessons. Historiography is the history of how history has been written. So you're looking at things that people have written about historical events. And it's important to understand perspective and understand like who is telling this story and why would they choose to omit certain facts.
Yes.
And that is something that we really are fucked up with in this country, is forgetting what's important and whitewashing the hell out of our history to make us look better. And that is so fucked up. And it's something I'm really like paying attention to now. And I love that this film came out like right as I'm learning about all this, because it's like I'm zeroing in on that shit immediately. And I think it's something we all need to be more aware of, is it's not just a history, it's who's telling the history. Who's telling us about these people, or better yet, who isn't? And we see, you know, how much the feds were so scared of Fred Hampton being a unifier, being a guy who was going to, you know, as I think Hoover said, he was a threat to their way of life.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So
that scene. Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ.
He's not talking about like black people, white people. He's talking about politics, like politicians and the federal government, and how if the people of all colors, if oppressed people rise up, everything changes. And Fred Hampton had the power to make that happen in a way that very few people throughout history have had. He had an influence that was like really special. And there's one scene in the movie that is like just so amazing and really showcases his power of doing that. And we'll bring that up later. But yeah, it's just I think we all need to be mindful about the history we learn and the sources we find it from.
Yeah. Likewise with when talking about this movie, we have a sort of new filmmaker, Shaka King, who hasn't dipped his toe in a lot, which caused me to do some research about how did this come about. This shit has been in his mind for like 7 years. So he's been kind of chipping away at this project for a long time. And it shows. It really does. It really does. You can try to find, little things about the movie that maybe aren't totally true to what happened, but from everything I've seen and read, and with the ending that they chose, that Shaka King chose, using a bit of documentary footage.
Yeah.
Masterful stuff. That's what Spike Lee does, is gives you that docudrama, gives you that, just kind of zeroes in on it and tells you like, no, this is real. I'm making a movie, but this is supposed to mirror real life.
Yeah, that's something I think biopics need to remind you of, is that
agreed.
As wild or outlandish as these stories may be, they are based in history, based in fact. And ending with that, or the most biopics end with a few factoids about like the aftermath. And those are important. They're almost my favorite part of a biopic, is finding out like just how accurate was this. And this movie really goes the extra mile to remind you how important Fred Hampton was to the civil rights movement and to really history, like American history. I think he's an unsung hero. And I hope this movie makes him makes more people aware of him.
I agreed, and I hope it gives people a reason to do the research on the Black Panther Party and read about what they're really about. Read about what it really meant to be in the thick of it. To be when you hear stuff like in the struggle, like find out what that really means, And I think movies like this can give people an urge, give people a push to go in that direction, start reading things online and figuring out things for themselves, and maybe even listen to Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield talk about why they chose these roles. Listen to Shaka King talk about why he wanted to make this movie. Those things are important. Those things are really important when you're bringing all of these ideas and these characters to life, back to life. It's big stuff. It's big stuff. It's important stuff. Especially when you got, Deborah Johnson, and Fred Hampton Jr., you got them, you got them doing their thing. So you got to be respectful, of course. And I think this movie from everything I've seen and read, and did a good job, man. And it felt that way while watching it. Felt honest. It felt like a good tribute to what was happening in the late 60s in Chicago. For me, man, it's hard to compare a movie like this to Trial of Chicago 7. Like, I'm much more interested in this one's a lot more like underground and grittier. And I thought about that the whole time. Like, I was thinking about the late 60s the whole time because it captured that so well.
It did. It really did. I have my own thoughts about Trial of the Chicago 7. I was a big fan, but I can understand why people would be more accepting of this one. I think it is more honest. I think it is more focused. But I think both films have something to offer about, two fairly separate stories that kind of only are entangled like a little bit. But that comparison is going to be ongoing.
Oh yeah, for sure. It will be, especially because they're in the same season. They're going to be competing at the same award shows, and that's just how it's going to be. It's going to be Aaron Sorkin's Trial of Chicago 7 versus Shaka King's, Judas and the Black Messiah. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a thing.
Do you think this is going to be up for Best Picture, Best Director, possibly?
Fucking should be. I think it should be up for a lot of stuff. We can go ahead and start talking about the cast if you want that way.
Sure.
I think for sure. I think this is. I've heard some people call it like it's Departed 2.0. Like, yeah, it is. It moves like a 70s, 60s or 70s like cop movie at times. It's thrilling. It's got a love story that's like beautiful intertwined. It's an amazing biopic. It's all these different things. Makes you feel all these different things, and you learn all this stuff inside of 2 hours. This is what Best Picture category is for. Like,
yeah,
there's movies I personally love that I feel like I connect with, and then there's movies that I think that are like, oh man, people need to see this. This is what the medium is for. And this meets both of those for me. I love it, but I also think it's just spectacular piece of art. Breathtaking stuff. And definitely Best Director. Yeah, I think that's definitely a conversation that could be had. But I think the big one is like Daniel Kaluuya. Just give him the fucking statue already. He carries this movie with I don't even know a word to use. A gravitas that's you don't see anymore. You just do not see a guy move like that. It's insane. There's not a lot of guys who move that way. Like, it's the way like Daniel Day-Lewis moves. It's like, we have he's 31 and he's British. We got like a legend in the making, I think, in Daniel Kaluuya.
Damn. Brits named Daniel sure can act, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm telling. I think he's got this. I think he's got it figured out. Whatever it is, he's got it figured out.
Well, yeah. With that, let's get into the cast. Oscar nominee Daniel Kaluuya is Fred Hampton. Kaluuya was nominated for his performance in 2017's Get Out. Has appeared in such films as Black Panther, Widows, Sicario, and Queen and Slim. He took off incredibly fast after Get Out, and I think that this is a performance of the ages, and I really hope he gets the Oscar for this because he fucking deserves it. This is he plays Fred Hampton as Fred Hampton's a young man, but he feels so much older because of the weight of everything on his shoulders. And you feel that the entire time. Kaluuya never lets up. He plays him with such power. And it's fantastic. There's scenes in this film that do not feel acted. It feels like you're watching like footage from the 60s. And it's unreal. Like I knew he was going to be good, but holy shit. I couldn't look away. It was amazing.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. He he kind of spooks me out. He's so good. I can't handle Daniel Kaluuya. I had no idea. Inside of 5 years, the guy would just and I watched Skins, and he popped up on that when he was young. He's wearing like a fucking Atlanta Braves baseball cap and just fucking, just bullshitting at the like lunch table on Skins. Had no idea that this was coming. Had no idea. Like this is an all timer. This is like when you look back. I'm not kidding. I really feel this way. I've watched it twice now. I watched it twice inside of like whatever 20 hours. I just thought it was really good, and I wanted to watch him again. Quite frankly, I wanted to watch Daniel Kaluuya work again, and that's what it is. He's working his ass off. I think when we look back on his career,
yeah,
this will be like what Kramer versus Kramer is for Dustin Hoffman. Just like, damn, like that guy's doing it. He's really doing it. He's doing what this is. Yeah, it's his masterpiece. Yeah,
it's his Raging Bull.
Yeah. Yes, his Raging Bull. His There Will Be Blood. His Gangs of New York.
I mean, you look at his resume already. I mean, I would say Get Out is his like real start in Hollywood.
Agreed. Yeah, where it's like, who's that? Yeah, who's that? Who's that guy in this horror movie that transcends it out of horror into Oscar-nominated movie?
You take 4 of his movies. You take Get Out, Black Panther, Widows, and Judas and the Black Messiah. And you can see an incredible range with this guy. You can see like what he can do with his voice, the way he holds himself. Like these are very clearly 4 different complete characters that he completely disappears into. It is an amazing. He's got a talent very few actors in Hollywood have, where they do disappear. And I'm so excited to see this guy's career. I mean, we're just at the beginning here, and we're going to see so much work from him. And I'm psyched. I really am. I think that he's got a chance to get an Oscar right out the gate here at a young age. That's huge. And I don't see him wasting his post-Oscar bump the way that like Adrian Brody did. Like, I don't see that happening.
Rami Malek.
Yeah. This is going to be a performance where we look back and say like, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Agreed. I agree. I just, we could praise him all day. I think that's where a lot of people are at after watching this movie is like, oh, okay, yeah, that guy's a certified fucking superstar right now.
I mean, the speeches alone.
It's the way he kind of cocks his head and then his fucking jaw, you can see his jaw muscles moving. Like every little thing he does is like he's working. Like he's totally paying attention. When he puts his arm around Deborah when he's trying to feed her, with the spaghetti and looks up, what's up? Just like every little thing that he does is whether it's exactly like Fred Hampton or not, he's fucking trying. He's making decisions and he's committing to it and trying. And I love that in a biopic. I love when people make the decisions and go at it.
Well, and there's such like raw emotion in his performance. Like when he's doing the I am a revolutionary speech, the way he's throwing his entire body into that statement. You feel that. I almost screamed it at my TV. I was like, fuck yeah.
Complete satisfaction. Yeah.
I could follow this guy. My God. Oh yeah. It's a performance I'm not going to stop thinking about. So far, as of 2021, this is the best performance I've seen this year so far.
Hey, this is the best movie for me so far this year too. I just, yeah. Oh, wonderful stuff. Lakeith Stanfield though.
Yeah.
That guy's holding his own.
He is. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about him. So he plays FBI informant Bill O'Neill. Stanfield is another guy who took off really fast after his performances in such films as Short Term 12, Selma, Get Out, Sorry to Bother You, Uncut Gems, Knives Out, and the TV series Atlanta. Hell of a resume already, and that's within like 4 years. So he, I'm not surprised that he can hold his own against Daniel Kaluuya and really be kind of a sympathetic. I'll go so far. I'll say he's the villain of this movie. But
Hoover.
All right. Well, there's Hoover, who's just the bad guy. But I think that Bill O'Neill has his own
agenda,
his own blame for what happened.
100%, of course.
He's a rat.
Yeah,
straight up.
So does Roy. All these guys do. All these people that are part of a chain.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Oh yeah. And but Lakeith really, he makes you feel bad for this guy. He builds up the sympathy at times. And I thought he did a great job of, like you said, you said that somebody called it like The Departed 2.0. And he really does have that like Leo trapped in undercover work thing going really well. I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, Lakeith Stanfield, 29 years old right now, and just kind of like Daniel, can kind of just disappear into whatever environment you want him to be in. He's able to play so many different kinds of Black characters in such a short amount of time. Like he's a guy to kind of reckon with. Like, look out, this guy's coming. He's just in Atlanta alone. Jesus Christ, he is so damn funny in that show. There's multiple episodes. One of the very best episodes is kind of based around what he's doing in season 2. Just he's wonderful. Uncut Gems, I adore what he's doing in that movie. Short Term 12, he's the best part of that movie. He always offers something to what's going on, to whatever, in Knives Out. He offers something, amongst all these amazing actors. He's always there. He's always present. And I love that about him. I love the interview with, I can't remember who it is. It's Brad Pitt and Adam Sandler talking. I cannot remember what I was watching on YouTube. I just went down a rabbit hole, but Brad Pitt's talking about, oh man, Lakeith is awesome in Uncut Gems. And Adam Sandler's like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. Like, he's just kind of just like, locked into his character, like, I'm just kind of trying to talk with him, and he's talking like his character, he's like, this guy's obsessed with work, and really wants to go after it. And you love hearing that, you love hearing that from people that work with him, because it shows on the screen. Lakeith Stanfield seems like a guy who can work really, really well with other character actors, especially a guy like Daniel Kaluuya. We saw it in Get Out. They have one of the very best scenes of the entire decade together. Yeah. One of the most famous scenes of the decade too. One of the best horror scenes of all time. Just breathtaking stuff from those two. And then you had Lil Rel Howery show up later on. So there's a whole Get Out connection going on. I was waiting for somebody else to pop up, maybe even Jordan Peele. Yeah,
that would have been funny. Did you ever see that epic rap battle of history where Key and Peele play Gandhi and MLK?
Yes.
I wouldn't, Jordan Peele did a pretty decent job playing Martin Luther King. I wouldn't be surprised if he popped in on one of these films at some point.
Yeah, Jordan Peele's great at doing the Obama voice. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, this is a great ensemble. Do you see Lakeith possibly getting a nomination for this too?
Maybe. I don't think he is. I honestly think Dominique, I think she totally deserves a Best Supporting Actress nomination. Damn, I didn't know she had that in her. I've seen her some other stuff. The Deuce on HBO is a pretty cool show that I dig her in. I didn't know she had that in the bag, and she brought me to tears. Yeah, like just kind of like I just kind of dropped when she's talking to Fred, talking to Daniel Kaluuya about their child and about bringing a baby into this kind of war zone. It's a very, very honest conversation, and I thought that was kind of an Oscar kind of moment.
It's funny. In school, we're taught that the civil rights movement led to equality, and it was like a peaceful protest and all that. But the more we learn, we grow up, we find out that what really happened, and it was a fucking war, straight up, a war that in many ways is still happening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's still ongoing. Well, and that's it. Is like especially you and I. We're two white guys who grow up and we're just taught this bullshit over and over. The movies over and over kind of lie to you. The books over and over lie to you because it's told by white guys over and over who are trying to protect. Yep. Like Hoover says, protect their fucking way of life. Because even if they're not quote unquote racist or fascist, they still want to protect theirs. They still want to avoid losing their shit. And that shit is so fucking annoying.
It goes right back to that Get Out, to Bradley Whitford's character in Get Out of, I would have
yes
a third time.
Yes.
It's that same passive aggressive, like not racism. It's that bullshit.
It's that guy. Yeah, it's that guy. And that has to end. And that ends by people. Well, this goes into what we were talking about last week, is the people that are telling these stories need to be the right people so that they're told correctly, so that history doesn't get fucked up like it has been for so long. We need people to rewrite and say it like it is and be honest and come from the right voices.
I read a book for my historiography class last week that taught me that women's studies was not considered a legitimate view in history until like the late 80s.
Yeah,
people
it's bonkers.
didn't give a shit what women had to say in history. That mindset was not considered valid. Because, like, can you believe that shit? This is something that,
well, yeah, mine and your mom like didn't have a perspective on history until they were in their 30s. Like, what the fuck? Like,
the only people whose voice mattered in history for centuries were educated white men. They're the only people who had something to say, and they didn't know what the hell, the mindset of a slave was. But that's all we could look at. Like, it's only in the past 20 years that other people's voices are allowed to be heard and analyzed. And that's why we're getting new perspectives in history and new stories are being told, because we're really discovering and caring about them for the first time. It's incredibly fucked up.
No, it's insane. It's insane, dude. I talked about, I think it was last week, I talked a bit about that movie I watched, The Learning Tree by Gordon Parks, and like what it took to get that kind of a movie made, and like, just because it's a black dude making this movie with black actors trying to tell a story about the South in 1969 doesn't get any sort of budget at all, even though it's this great movie that could teach people a lot of different shit. It's frustrating as hell, to see like it's taken this long for a film like Judas and the Black Messiah to be made and to get the proper budget for the story to be told in the right way. That's insane. That's crazy. And that is racism, like it sucks, man. It sucks.
Yeah. It's, as much as, it was, racism has gotten a lot quieter because, well, not in the past 2 years, but lately, it's still there. It's just, it's hidden in like, like not being able to get a loan and things like that. It's still there. And it's never going to be rooted out until we root it out. And I think our generation is really, I think, stepping up to finally like abolish a lot of shit that the baby boomers have really just embraced. And I'm excited to see if that's what happens too. Like if we are finally the generation who says, fuck all this and stops. I mean, I don't know if that's even possible in our country, but the best I can do is just, not contribute to it. And that's
because it's so ingrained in our society. Systematic racism is not something that you can just kind of like knock over or ignore, or you just have to not contribute to it. Like you said, you have to like literally consciously do your part, love yourself, love the people around you, and like hate racism. You actually have to say that. Like you have to make the distinction, like fucking Hampton's saying. You cannot be a bystander. You cannot be someone who's not going to be an ally. You have to stand up and be like, this is messed up. And this is how it needs to be, no matter what you look like. Otherwise you're contributing, like you said, you're contributing to the fucking bad guys. That's what you're doing. Yeah. By not saying anything, by not doing anything, by not caring, by not watching movies like this, by not hearing stories like this, by not doing that work for yourself, you're not caring, and you're consciously not giving a shit, and so you're contributing to the bad guys. And you and I obviously don't stand for that, and we try our best to use this podcast to learn stuff.
Yeah.
I think the sneak preview Filmgazm, and Oscar Sunday have all proven that they've kind of like, kind of gone past our expectations and taught us some serious things. And
Yeah.
I love when a movie like this creates this kind of a conversation, because this is important.
Yeah. I think it's incredibly important to point out bigotry and point out how fucked up it is, and constantly remind people that it's not okay to act like this. It's not okay to treat people like this. And if I agree with if you're not going to be a part of the solution, then you are a bystander and part of the problem. It's a sin of omission. If you're not saying something, you're letting it happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have a platform here to say something, and I'm glad we're using it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. I think you always have to just if you're going to be alive, you do not want to regret not saying anything. So you definitely, life is fragile and short. So you gotta stand up for something. So what are your, is there anybody else in the cast you like really want to dig into? Jesse Plemons, you want to talk about him a little bit?
We can dig a bit into Jesse Plemons. Always down for that. He plays FBI agent Roy Mitchell. He took off after his role as Todd Alquist on the final season of Breaking Bad. And he's appeared in such films as Black Mass, Bridge of Spies, The Post, Game Night, The Irishman, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and season 2 of Fargo. Another guy, a lot of people in this who just like took off so quickly. And Jesse Plemons is a guy who always delivers. I think he doesn't really disappear. I mean, I can always tell like, oh, it's Todd in a suit, or it's Todd wearing a jacket. I just always see him as Todd. I'll never not.
I see him as the bully from Like Mike.
Oh my God. I've never seen that, but I know the movie.
Yeah, he's one of the bully kids in Like Mike from 2003. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Or 2003, 2002. I don't know.
Well, he does a great job at playing, like we saw in Breaking Bad. He plays a really good sociopath, a guy who just has nothing behind his eyes. And Roy Mitchell is that. This is Todd if he was an FBI agent. He's another guy. He's the perfect example of complacent means guilty, because he knows what Hoover's going to do. There's a moment there where you think he's like, we shouldn't do this, but he never says anything and he lets it happen.
Oh yeah, no, he's just a guy that thinks he's just doing his job. That's what he thinks.
But then again, you did not say no to J. Edgar Hoover. He was the most powerful man in the country at the time. And I'm including the president. Hoover had dirt on everybody. Hoover was a monster.
Yeah. The worst.
And he ran the FBI for like 50 fucking years. And he's really the reason the civil rights movement became so violent, because he wanted to stamp that out. He thought that this was a revolution against him and his people. It was, you have racists at the top, you're going to have racists at the bottom. It's
exactly.
It starts there. And it just, this is the real trickle down shit. And it's just aggressive. And I thought Martin Sheen did a great job playing Hoover.
Oh my God. Yeah. Frightening.
Yeah. Martin Sheen's another guy who's like just been reliable as fuck the whole time, his whole career, never really gotten his due, I don't think. But
no.
Have you ever seen Hot Shots Part 2?
No, I have not.
So Hot Shots, the first one, is a Top Gun parody. Hot Shots 2 is an Apocalypse Now parody. So Charlie Sheen plays this guy who goes to Vietnam to
Jesus.
And he's on a riverboat doing his narration, and all of a sudden you hear Martin Sheen's narration cutting in, because Martin Sheen is on another riverboat about to pass him. And he's playing his character from Apocalypse Now. And they both look at each other with this wait a minute. And then they both at the same time go, I loved you in Wall Street. They do a thumbs up, and they never see him again.
Oh my God.
It was very clever. I think of that scene every time I think of Martin Sheen.
That is fantastic.
But yeah, back to the dark shit. He did a great job as Hoover, just playing him as a monster who only wanted one thing, and that was Fred Hampton dead. It's amazing how easy it was for these feds to just, toe the line, because a lot of them thought exactly the same way. There were not a lot of people in power who thought that black people deserved rights. It's, ugh. God,
it's
about it.
It's disgusting. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely uncomfortable to talk about, but it's something that it needs to be put in movies, and when you're trying to tell us the whole story, you really do have to go to where it's rooted at the top, and that is Hoover. Because if you show that this guy who is in control of so many men, he can snap his fingers and people will fire. People will just fire away at innocent people because this guy snaps his fingers. Like he's that powerful. Like you said, maybe the most powerful man in the United States for like over a decade. So
almost half a century. Like he was
actually in control of the FBI for a very long time. Yeah. And most presidents just kind of let him do his thing.
He hunted Dillinger and he killed Fred Hampton. Like this guy had
range. Yeah. From his career is like too long.
I think he was the first director of the FBI.
Yeah. He's the
guy.
He's basically the guy who represents it. Yeah.
Jesus.
he's the logo.
And he might have been a closeted homosexual, which is the craziest part of all of this.
That fucking Leonardo DiCaprio and Armie Hammer biopic that's just not aged very well at all. Good Lord.
Why? Because of Armie Hammer's whole cannibal thing, or just
and the fact that there's a J. Edgar Hoover biopic.
Well, I guess does it paint him as a hero?
You haven't seen that one?
I haven't seen J. Edgar.
I saw it in theaters, so it's been a long time. But yeah, I remember not. I'm not going to say hero, but I remember it not being like this guy sucks, because he sucks. Yeah. And any movie that tries to be like, nah, he was fine is wrong.
Yeah, you gotta. A lot of our American icons are painted and glorified for some reason. I don't know why, but we refuse to admit that people in power were monsters in this country. We refuse to believe that. And we need to. We need to acknowledge the faults of our leaders. Or else, we end up with Trump again. And I don't want that to happen. We need to know the mistakes, and we need to recognize them, and we need to ensure that we don't repeat them. And that goes to every level of government. And glorifying Hoover is just another part of that.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, straight up. It's not something that should be done with a biopic. Yeah.
There's not a lot of biopics that paint their subject as just complete bastards. Most of them are made to show like the human side of them. Although all the money in the world does a good job.
That's true. Yeah. But you're right. Most of them are made by someone who finds them intriguing in some way. I think one of my favorite looks at especially like a political or, American individual is Patton, 1970.
Yeah.
So a movie that really doesn't go one way or the other. Somehow it kind of makes you want to punch Patton in the face at some points, and also makes you want to pat him in the back at some points. Like, it's so weird. That movie's kind of amazing how it does that.
Yeah. It's very rare where you see a larger than life figure's faults in a movie like this. And I'm not saying that everyone who's ever been famous is, a monster, but I think you do need to point out when people did bad shit. And
especially Hoover.
Yeah, especially the leader of the FBI for 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It needs to be told, and it needs to be told honestly, because to a lot of people, this is their history. This is how they're going to learn this stuff.
Yes. So it is important because of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, Judas and the Black Messiah has an IMDb score of 7.9, current Rotten Tomatoes score of 96%. It's going to be available on HBO Max for a month. So that's where you can stream it. So let's discuss some things we liked about the film itself.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the themes of it and pointed out some things we enjoy with the performances, but right from the get-go, man, you're just kind of in the hands of a hands of a good filmmaker right away. And that's when I felt like I was really comfortable the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie. I was like, okay, we're in territory, like this movie is as good as everybody's saying. When you see Lakeith, he says he's dressed up like Humphrey Bogart. And he's got that whole bit on, and he does his thing trying to, like, fucking steal from these guys. Essentially, you're just kind of like, wait a minute, I thought this is a biopic about Fred Hampton. You're like, oh, it's going to take this whole other angle, and it's going to become like a fucking crime drama as well. Okay, cool. Really, really amazing stuff.
There was a scene where somebody's driving and the song Deep Gully by the Outlaw Blues Band came on.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I immediately recognized it as the song that Cypress Hill sampled for When the Shit Goes Down.
Yes.
And
yes.
there's no way that was an accident. That was so cool. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, I've brought up many of times the Danny McBride scene, and This Is the End, when he gets to wake up, smoke, and that song's playing, and he ruins everybody's fucking day because he makes all the food. Amazing.
Oh boy. So there's some lines in this film that I think really work towards kind of explaining people's motivations. And there was one line that one of the feds said. It was, I'm all for civil rights, but you can't cheat your way to equality. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I love these people have to justify, like, hey, I'm not a racist, but here's some overly racist shit.
Yeah, exactly. That's America. That's America being like, we're cool. No, we're not. What? No, you're not. No, you're not. You got a lot of shit to work on.
Extremely. And just these feds being like, look, I'm on their side. No, shut the fuck up. Like, at least embrace who you are and be, honest about it. Stop hiding behind your fucking badge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So my favorite scene in the movie is when Fred Hampton goes to the rebel flag redneck meeting.
Oh,
I was blown away. I was like, oh shit, they're all going to get killed. Because they got the giant ass Confederate flag behind them, and they're preaching about how, they've been cheated. And Fred goes in there and says, like, we all have the same enemy. Like, the cops are the ones who fuck you over too. And they're like, yeah, like he's convincing these people, like rednecks, to join the Black Panthers. Like, what the fuck? That is amazing.
Yeah. That was a funny scene.
I couldn't believe that he did it. Those guys are standing with him in the Rainbow Coalition, which is such an amazing concept. Like he was uniting everybody, like everyone who was oppressed by higher authority. That's amazing. God, you imagine, like he would have been a congressman. He would have been a senator. He would have been amazing. Like if the fucking feds hadn't just destroyed his life.
Yeah. God. Oh man. Yeah. What he not just he could have accomplished, what the party could have accomplished with his inspiration, I think it's, he said always, like, it's not just about me. It's about the party. It's about culture. It's about a revolution.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that's kind of like getting through to people. That's like a message that people can hear right now through this movie. It's really cool. Definitely some of the most powerful moments of the movie are when that stuff is kind of explained to you, like what this is, what this is about. Found it to be really moving. I thought what made this movie, because I was expecting that stuff to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You see some of the stuff in the trailer, and Kaluuya is going to just kind of kill it in those speeches. What I was really blown away with were those real intimate scenes where, like, Algie Smith plays Ashton Sanders plays Jimmy Walker. That scene is pretty incredible, where he goes in and shooting at these two cops, and then he's shot, goes to the hospital, and they find out that he was killed in the hospital. And that's when Kaluuya goes and does his huge speech where he starts screaming, "I am a revolutionary." And that's an amazing moment. And then you have Algie Smith's mom when he's she's speaking with Daniel Kaluuya, speaking with Fred Hampton. Unbelievable. Just in the kitchen, the phone's ringing. She's explaining it's like these stupid prank callers, you know, people messing with me because my son shot these cops. And it's just, it kind of just pulls you back to just this very, very kind of like subtle state. And you realize you're not watching, you know, not just a movie, but, you know, yeah, this is bringing it back to this really emotional place for these people who are losing family members, losing children, losing, you know, brothers, sisters, whatever it may be, due to, you know, due to racism, due to, at its root, you know, fascism, racism, and inequality. And when you just like confront that with a scenario between two characters, it sometimes can be, you know, really, really, really powerful stuff. And in this case, this movie kind of knocked out of the park every time it had one of those moments. Whether it was with Daniel Kaluuya, the scene with Dominique Fishback with Deborah Johnson when she's just breaking down what's happening and gives you that kind of perspective on even Fred Hampton questions things at some point because he's like, do you regret having my baby? You know? And like, even he's questioning what's happening right now. That's incredible. When a movie can do that, it's doing all these things that we're talking about inside 2 hours. It's really amazing how it can stir all of those emotions.
Well, you look at the title of this film, Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an accident that Fred Hampton in this film is really painted as kind of a Christ-like figure, a guy who's willing to give his life for what he believed in. And he says that constantly throughout the film is, you know, I know I'm not going to die of a bad heart or a car accident. Like, I'm going to be killed. I know that. Like, to live with that and still fight for what you believe in, that's a hero. That's someone to look up to, someone to aspire to be. That's amazing. And he really does, you know, like you said, he does doubt himself. And I like that the film reminds you that despite being, you know, a larger than life figure, he was a man. He was a guy who,
he's 21. Yeah.
21-year-old guy with the weight of the world on his shoulders. And he, you know, had a pregnant girlfriend, and he knew that this was not a world that a child should grow up in. And he had to reconcile that with his beliefs and his goals with the party. And the film really touches on that very well. It shows you all sides of this guy. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Just really amazing stuff. I think it, you know, the film altogether just moves kind of exactly how you want a biopic to move deep down. And we've kind of highlighted feels like every part of the movie. I mean, because that's how good it is. It's kind of each scene, each performance is kind of worth it, kind of worth discussion, worth watching.
My favorite scene is the I am a revolutionary speech. I think that's the scene that's going to win Kaluuya the Oscar. He goes even farther in that scene. You can feel him, like, you know, he's got a lot of emotions he's dealing with in that scene. He's got to be strong for the party, but he also is mourning a friend. And it comes out. It all combines into this, like, you know, Maoist soup where he's just like freaking out. And it's amazing. It's so great. Oh God, yeah, I'm gonna be thinking about that scene for a long time. And then when Lakeith sees Roy in the group, and Roy is standing there going, you know, I am a revolutionary. Like, he's just, you know, lying through his teeth. It's crazy how, you know, these people were able to just do that, to just be that. It's fucked up. But
it's absurd. It's so absurd. Do you like the reference to the Academy Award that's made whenever they're talking? He's like, I don't know if you deserve the Academy Award or if you really believe this. I always think that when a movie does that, they're like, come on. Come on, Come on, Academy. Listen, come on.
You mentioned the Oscars. You're fishing. That was, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think Mank is like at the end of the movie is like, come on now. Let's give it to Gary Oldman too. Yeah.
Oh my God. Do you think Kaluuya is going to be up for lead or supporting? Because he's up for
Lead.
supporting at the Globes.
Lead. I think that's really silly. This is both their movie. There's no need for one of them to take the back seat. This is a movie that tells the story of Fred Hampton's, last few years, and mostly through the perspective of another guy who happened to be heavily involved in what was happening, especially around his death. So yeah, I think they could both be up for Best Actor, but Kaluuya is just a powerhouse in this movie. And the scene you pointed out, that is the scene, that doing that speech after Jimmy Walker dies, and it's like he totally has the weight of Chicago like on him, and he has to deliver this not just inspiring speech, but something that makes sense to them during a time of war, during a time of just people dying left and right. Just crazy stuff.
He's got to take his anger and his mourning and his fear and channel it into something that's going to inspire an entire city.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Jesus Christ. So let's touch briefly on the ending, which is fucking horrific. I didn't think they were going to do it. I thought they were going to end it before the actual murder and kind of tell us in, title cards of what that, how Fred was murdered. But to actually see it like that, I couldn't breathe at times. I was like just horrified of how that went down. And yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah, when you, like, for perspective, especially when you're talking about movies, it's like feels a little wrong when it seems like you're watching fucking Zero Dark 30 or something. It's totally shattering watching these people just coming in and just mayhem. It's just complete like mayhem. It's like not it's not human at all, and like you said, you couldn't breathe. Yeah, I don't know of many movies that just go there, just really, really go there. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for movies that try that. I think Catherine Bigelow's Detroit really went to a dark, dark place. And I think this movie goes to a really dark, dark place, so that the audience does not deserve to be treated kindly. No, especially the white audience. No, not at all. Not at all. This is how you learn.
But like putting a gun to Deborah's stomach. I mean, geez,
that image is something else. Is when she realizes what's happening, that he's been put to sleep. It's like, oh my God, they've stopped shooting because they want to make sure that they get him. It's very, very hard to swallow. Very hard.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard to swallow. And but it's, as much as I didn't want to see it, I agree with you that it does need to be seen, that we need to know exactly how Fred Hampton was murdered by the police.
Just straight up assassinated. Yeah, straight up by America. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. God. And then
America killing its own genius. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was a threat to their way of life. God.
Whose way of life? You're not American. You're a fucking dictator. Like Fred Hampton's American, but you're killing an American. You're assassinating an American. It's so from the just most basic, stupid, like a 3-year-old can understand that this is just like stupid. Just stupid.
Yeah, it's rough. And I love that we learned during, through the title cards, that Deborah Johnson is still an active member of the party.
Yeah.
Her son, Fred Hampton Jr., is the head of the Chicago party. That is, I had like a fuck yeah moment. Like I didn't know any of that. So to find that out was like, yes, it's just, I love that. And I hope they were involved in the making of this film. I hope they like had something to say in like the way Fred was portrayed.
Yeah, I'm sure most of the parties were involved that could be doing this movie, because it's pretty damn good movie, and obviously brings up a lot of really important conversations. Yeah.
And Bill O'Neill killed himself.
Yeah, how about that? They show that interview footage of him just kind of like, look, I had to survive, I was a part of the struggle too. You have to understand that hearing that from him was so fascinating. It makes you think about the movie in a whole different light. You're like, oh shit, this character, like, how do I feel? How am I supposed to feel about this guy? And he's obviously a part of it. He agrees to do this. It's so crazy. It's so crazy, man.
He only agrees to do it after he's threatened with 15 years in prison.
Yeah, exactly. So like, would you do it? Would I do it? I don't know. I can't say. You can't say. I can't say. We've never been down that. We never had that had to stare down the barrel of the gun. Like, no, I can't say. So it's fucking hard. It's very hard. So to choose that character for like the perspective of this movie is like brilliant. You could make a Fred Hampton biopic and I'm sure it would have been amazing. But you took it to another fucking level and implemented this other character who's got all these layers to him. And you give Lakeith Stanfield just all this great dialogue to work with. It's pretty much perfect in the world of biopics. Pretty much perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought this was fantastic. So final scores. What are you thinking?
Final scores, thought a lot about this today. When you do like the first time watch, you don't want to be too hard on something or too, like it too much. But I find that to be, I'm going to go with my heart, because last week I didn't go with my heart and I regret it. So this week I am. I'm going to go ahead and say 9 for Judas and the Black Messiah. I think this one's pretty special, and not only that, it had a pace of like The French Connection and made me think of movies that I love from the 60s and 70s. So it took me to that place and also taught me some stuff and gave me, as a viewer and other people as viewers, some things to think about and some amazing performances along the way.
Hell yeah, man. Love that passion. I give it an 8. It's a strong 8. Could rise. You know me, it's very tough to push above an 8. It's my base score for a great movie. The performances are incredible. The story's engaging. The end is fucking horrific. And the film overall is a great watch. It's informative, it's educational, but it's also very passionate and clearly has something to say. So, yeah, 8. So to close out, we thought it would be kind of interesting if we talked about some of our favorite biopics. True stories are often so much stranger than fiction. And what are some like all-time favorite true stories that you've seen on film?
Yeah, biopics, true stories. There's a lot that come to mind, but I definitely wrote down a few just to try to keep it short, because I could kind of go on forever. Any doesn't matter what genre we're talking about. It's just fun to go on about. But some ones that I think we can talk about that I definitely am interested in are My Left Foot, Christy Brown. Danny Day-Lewis playing Christy Brown is really cool. Mank is a recent one that I find to be really interesting. Hunger from 2008 about Bobby Sands. It's a Steve McQueen's movie. Amadeus from 1984. Social Network from 2010. I like to get a different kinds of palettes with the biopics and when these kinds of stories are being told. And those are some that definitely represent like my fandom for these kinds of movies. Of those, Amadeus to me does the best trick where It has this massive, 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 character, large in life, Mozart, and it takes a different angle, Salieri, it takes a totally different angle, and I love that. Love when that happens. You see that a lot in Judas and the Black Messiah, where it kind of takes O'Neill's perspective, and I think that's really cool, man. That's one of my favorite tropes within this kind of subgenre. So, what are some ones that you love?
Well, there's a lot of films that I've talked about on these podcasts. Like I've mentioned Judgment at Nuremberg, Goodfellas. Hacksaw Ridge is a favorite. Moneyball, I think, is amazing.
Billy Bean. Yeah.
One I haven't really gotten to talk about that I really adore is Milk from 2008.
Oh yeah, Sean Penn, Gus Van Sant. Yeah.
True story of Harvey Milk, the first openly gay man elected to political office in the United States. And it's an incredible story about a very inspirational man who, again, like Fred Hampton, was murdered before his time. And I love stories about people who paved the road for who would come after, people who opened the door for the first time. And Milk is a great story. It's a great lesson, and it's a tearjerker straight up. I love biopics so much. I could name so many. Straight Outta Compton's another one. Theory of Everything. Tucker, The Man in His Dream, which is an oddball but a good one. Vice. Like there's so many amazing stories throughout the entire planet's history. And the more we find, the more we learn, the better we can start, tightening the screws on these things. And I look forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, we did an episode on Z. That's basically a biopic. They just had to lie a little bit about the about the whereabouts of the film. Yeah, it's such a fascinating place to go when you're talking about real life, people that affected real history, and people either look up to or can't stand. I love that. I love when you take a divisive person and just kind of put it out there.
Yeah. And there's one more I'd like to spotlight because we were talking about Nicolas Cage earlier. There's this 2016 biopic called Army of One that tells the true story of a man named Gary Faulkner, who is a handyman who claimed that God had given him a mission to find and capture Osama bin Laden. This was a true story. This is a man with no weapons experience. He was not a soldier. He had no training in anything. He flew to Pakistan and was immediately arrested by the police in Pakistan and sent back home. But this movie tells his story in such a creative way. Russell Brand plays God, who is there to guide him. It's the weirdest movie, but it's so interesting. There's a scene towards the end where Gary Faulkner's, like Nick Cage's character, Gary Faulkner, is talking about who he would want to play him in a movie. And he brings up, well, I saw that movie Con Air, and what about Nick Cage? I think he'd do a great job. So it's so meta and so layered and so weird. It's a great story.
That's fantastic.
Oh boy. So yeah, some of our favorite biopics, and that's a subject that'll be coming up a lot on all of these shows. There's no shortage of true stories out there, and we're always finding more.
Yeah, for sure. I think this film, of the films we've talked about on the show, it's the best movie we've done on Sneak Preview so far. We've done Pieces of a Woman, The Little Things, Malcolm and Marie. What else?
We've talked about.
What am I missing?
But as far as like full episodes, let me check. One Night in Miami.
Oh yeah, there we go. That was pretty good. Yeah, I like this one the best for sure.
Yeah, I think, I'm looking at the list of the films I've watched this year so far, and yeah, I think this is my favorite as well.
Hell yeah, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. People, obviously, if you've gone this far, you've probably seen the film because we spoiled the shit out of it. So hope you enjoyed. And this train does not stop rolling. Next week, we got really cool stuff happening on this show and Oscar Sunday.
See, I don't ever feel bad about spoiling biopics because that's history. If you don't know that, that's your own fault.
Yeah. True.
So that is all for this week. Next week, we finally get to watch Chloe Zhao's critically acclaimed Nomadland, coming to Hulu next Friday. Been looking forward to this for quite a while. This is a film that's been like evading us, and now we finally get to watch it. Also in theaters is The Mauritanian, a political biopic starring Jodie Foster and Benedict Cumberbatch. So I'll try to check in on that as well. Tune in next week to see what we end up talking about. On the Filmgazm podcast this Wednesday, don't miss Josh and I discussing 1981's My Bloody Valentine. And on Oscar Sunday, don't miss Austin and I discussing 1996's Fargo. Also, tune in Friday, March 5th for a new podcast, Guys Who Giggle, which will be all about comedy movies. Can't wait for that. Thanks for listening. Have a great week. Keep watching movies.